welcome to the first episode of AB on AI. I'm your host, Angela Benton, and Yari, introduce yourself.
My name is Yari. I'll be your co-pilot on this AI adventure, joining the incredible Angela Benton.
Yari and I have been talking about all things AI for a few months now, and so I'm happy to actually have him on this journey with me. And the first thing that I want to talk about, actually, this was in the newsletter already. So you guys already read what I had to say about it. But the whole purpose of this podcast is because I started getting a lot of messages from you guys. And yes, I do read all of my emails from people who are reading my newsletter. So if you just hit reply, I do see those and I do reply back. But I have been getting a lot of emails from people who were like, hey, I love the newsletter. I love the deep dives that you're doing, but it would be awesome if there was like some kind of audio version of this so that I could still listen every week, but while I'm on the treadmill or while I'm working out. And that's what the purpose of this podcast is. My goal is to go over the stuff that I've talked about in my newsletter, but then also a lot of crap is happening in AI and it's happening really fast. So we'll probably also end up talking about stuff that isn't in the newsletter as well. Just to kick things off, you guys may or may not know CES wasn't last week. I believe it was the week before. It's usually the second week in January. And so there has been a lot of updates from CES. Of course, AI was at the top of the conversation there. And one of the things that I thought was super interesting, Yari and I were talking about, was Walmart's CEO, Doug McMillon. So he announced a ton of different things at CES. And so first of all, the first thing that he announced was this idea of being able to automatically have your refrigerator restock what's missing with AI. He also talked about the ability to check out easily and basically just walk out of a Walmart store and already have everything paid for. And so it sounds super futuristic. For sure, it does. But honestly, I don't know. Like, people have been talking about this whole idea, especially around restocking refrigerators, for, I'm going to say, at least a decade, or it has to be close to a decade, because I remember when I was in Silicon Valley and it was like the whole rise of the Internet of Things movement. And again, at CES, a lot of people were touting this technology around having these appliances in your home and having a card on file and having these systems that can actually order things that you're out of automatically. And so this isn't really something that's new. I think the biggest thing that's new about it is that it can actually happen and happen at scale now. Before, when people were talking about it, I thought it could happen and it was happening. But the biggest difference between then and now is the mass adoption of AI and generally how comfortable people would be to actually like do this and have your refrigerator actually restock. And if you're out of milk, then it ends up on your doorstep in a couple of hours. I don't know, Yari, what do you think about this? Would this be something that you do?
I'm a little on the fence. I think by the sound of your voice, you're optimistic as well with it. It gives me very much Amazon when they try to do their store
Mm,
with the whole checking out, like everything is Internet of Things. The algorithm just knows like what you're purchasing and then when you leave. I'm a little bit iffy on it. I do remember the whole Samsungs with the camera refrigerator was supposed to be
yeah.
this. I don't know if we're like, is this like 2.0? Are we revisiting this? Yeah, it's a little interesting. I feel like they're just going to mimic your
Yeah.
shopping more so than it's talked about like the essentials. So your milks, your eggs, your butters, waters, and juices and things like that, your staples.
I completely agree. It is very much kind of 2.0. The difference between, okay, so the Amazon Go stores are interesting, but I just find those a little bit more creepy. And honestly, even at Whole Foods, at my local Whole Foods, I saw they installed the devices where you can scan your palm to check out. Like, I just don't want, I don't want my palm imprint and fingerprint data out in the ether or within Amazon, especially all of what Amazon is doing with healthcare as well. So that piece is a little bit creepy to me. For Walmart, people don't really understand. Definitely the average consumer does not understand that Walmart is a data company. They have a whole division.
Most
Yes, they
definitely.
have a whole division of their company that is purely focused on data, analyzing the data of their shoppers. So people who go into the store, people who purchase stuff online. Essentially, they pivoted to become a very data forward company, and honestly in order to compete with Amazon. It's super interesting because I think when we think of Walmart from a brand perspective, it's very opposite of Target and the lighting in Targets and the type of merchandise that are in Targets. And people really try to downplay Walmart because they're typically in different areas. They definitely have foothold on rural areas, but it for sure is a very innovative company. They're doing a ton of stuff with data. And so don't sleep basically on Walmart. Don't sleep at all. And so they are actually rolling out, and I actually just tried this the other day of checking out at Walmart with their Walmart Pay app. The process was, and I don't know if anybody else has tried this, it's a little clunky because, okay, you take your stuff to the register, they scan it, and then you can pay like usual with your card, or you can scan the QR code that is on the payment console, and then it'll open up Walmart Pay and process the transaction there. And y'all know how Walmart loves to check receipts when you leave the store. Basically,
That
they
they
do,
do.
but so you don't get a printed receipt. The receipt stays in the app, and then you show your phone to the person walking out of the store. And so that was super interesting to me. And so this idea, the CEO of Walmart mentioned that they're rolling out, this is in the Dallas store first. So if you're in Dallas, you guys have to check this out. Let me know how it is. If I end up in Dallas, I'm for sure checking this out. But the whole idea is that they have this device in the entryway. It's like an arch, is how it was described, where you have your items that you have purchased, and then you just walk out of the store and it automatically scans it or detects it, and you pay for it, and that's it. So, definitely some Jetsons type stuff right there. So, we'll see if you guys are in Dallas and happen to check it out, definitely let me know. Okay, so the next story, this is a big deal, but maybe not a big deal. I'll tell you guys why I think it's a big deal in a second. But Microsoft basically launched CoPilot to consumers and small and medium businesses. And so CoPilot in this whole AI wars debacle where big tech is, they're in an arms race of who can build the most innovative technology, who can integrate it into existing technology that they already have. Microsoft obviously winning because of their investment in OpenAI, but also with this Copilot product that they have now. And so they're going to be selling it for $20 a month. Nothing too crazy, but basically, Copilot is an integration in Bing and also Microsoft Word, which still a fair amount of people use. So it's not anything to sneeze at all. And it basically uses ChatGPT Turbo. And so that's the benefit that they have there, where they're trying to get people to use Copilot. So this technology via Microsoft previously was really only for larger businesses. So people, you had to have a 300-person minimum or something like that. And so them rolling this out to individuals and smaller businesses to me is huge. And this is what I've been talking about. At the end of last year, I wrote several essays around just different opportunities that I see in AI. One of the biggest ones that I see is a lot of the stuff that's being talked about in AI right now, just in terms of, I guess, the large language models, how it's being used. This is, people have been talking about this for quite some time. And you guys know, because I started Streamlytics, which is a data company, started that in 2018. So I have been in this world specifically in terms of AI for a little while now. And so the conversations around what's happening in AI aren't necessarily new, but they're new to consumers and they're definitely new to small businesses. And so a lot of the technologies that currently exist, like for sure, we've seen a huge leap forward for enterprises, but small businesses, frankly, have never had access to this. And so this is why, to me, this is so important. And I don't, like me, I don't know, I don't use Microsoft Word. Yari, do you?
I'm a Microsoft user, most definitely. I'm a little
Interesting.
old school. I'm part of the legacies, so I'm still worded up. I'm still paying my Word subscription like it's a Netflix or something. So yes, I
Okay,
do.
okay, okay. That's interesting. And so I guess that's my point. I haven't used Microsoft Word in ages. I'm a Google Docs girly and have been for quite some time, but there are still a large amount of people who use Microsoft Word, really 750 million active users compared to, that's
That's
a
a
lot,
lot.
compared to Google Docs, over a billion monthly active users. And of course, these are 2023 numbers. There's a nice little chart, the newsletter, if you guys want to check it out. But I think that's why the story is really so important. It's nothing to sneeze at. And so, what we're really talking about here is distribution. And so, they have this product, CoPilot, that they're now distributing to 750 million active users a month. Even if they only get a fraction of, that's huge. So that's why that story is super big. And that's why I thought it, honestly, it was one of the top stories for the week. All right. So moving on, the year of AI elections. That is what I believe 2024 is going to be. This is a huge topic, as you guys know. I talk about this in more detail in the newsletter. You're going to have to go and check it out. If you're not a subscriber, subscription is free. But one of my biggest takeaways about this is incredibly scary. And y'all know I'm an optimist when it comes to AI. It's very scary, particularly because I'm a person, I like to look at history and like how things have played out in the past. And we already saw in the 2016 elections and the 2020 elections how the manipulation of data and technology platforms had taken place in terms of even sending people to wrong voting centers. And so this is definitely a huge topic. Check out the newsletter. If you're not a subscriber, check it out. If you are a subscriber and you're just listening, just open it up when you have some time and see what I have to
Mhm.
say about that. Now, this story is actually not in the newsletter, this next topic that I want to touch on. And that is the conversation about artificial intelligence at Davos. So, Davos is going on right now in Switzerland, Davos, Switzerland. This is a forum that happens every year. And really, it's where the world's elite goes to hang out and talk about the future of everything, frankly, not just technology. It's the world's elite in terms of finance. So you have leaders of banking and financial institutions, you have billionaires, legacy billionaires like the Rockefellers or the Disney heirs, and then you also have people who are self-made, the Jeff Bezos of the world. And you have technology leaders there as well. Sam Altman's there, every kind of major player and technology is there. And again, this happens every year. And then, of course, you have heads of states there. So people who are legitimately world leaders. And so it is a hugely influential event. And they talk about everything from climate to global economies to technology. And they set the tone and the strategy of what's important in the world today. And so if you're not familiar with Davos, you can follow all the business outlets are there. MSNBC, CNBC, all of them are there, Bloomberg. So there's a ton of coverage there. One of the biggest conversations, of course, is AI. This is not new. So last year, AI was a big conversation topic as well, but it was more optimistic. And so what they're saying now is this year, it's more realist. And so everyone was super excited about AI last year. This year, they're like, okay, AI is great. How do we put some safeguards in place? And so a lot of the conversation has been about that. Some interesting conversations at Salesforce had a lounge there. And interestingly enough, the CEO of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, was there. He had a conversation with Sam Altman, who, of course, Sam Altman's the CEO of OpenAI. And so, of course, he was super optimistic, about it. You can read his statement and everything about that. But then I thought it was interesting. They had Will I Am there on a panel after that. And yes, the same Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas, he was there. And so he's this self proclaimed technologist. He generally speaks on all things tech, but I felt like his comments were certainly interesting and intriguing. And his biggest thing was, we're investing so much in artificial intelligence, whether you're a company or a country, we need to invest the same amount in what he's calling HI, human intelligence, because we need upskilling, which I
Mm,
do actually agree with. I do believe that we
mm,
need upskilling. That's honestly part of the reason why I decided to do the accelerator, because when I started working with I was like, okay, this is crazy. This is life changing for a lot of people. But my biggest concern, and if you follow me on social media, you guys always hear me say this, my biggest concern is for the people who get sucked into the fear mongering. This is not a fad. It's not going away. Please don't ignore it. It would be terrible if you ignore all of the changes that are happening, because within the next 5 years, you're going to wake up and the world is going to be a different place. And the people who are ignoring it
mm,
now are really going to be starting from scratch. And for me, particularly for people of color, that is a huge issue because we're always starting behind. So I really do feel like this is an opportunity for us to adopt new technologies earlier and at least start to get more of a foothold and start to get, I guess, a piece of the pie. It's the best way to say it. So I completely agree with Will I Am from that vantage point. A lot of other conversation. You guys, climate is always a huge conversation at Davos. Climate has taken a back seat to AI this year. And so just to kind of give
mm.
you a better understanding of, just grasping this topic of how important it is. I think people see the conversation around AI and they think, "Oh, this is like crypto stuff," and they're like paying attention to it but not really. This is not the crypto hype. That is not what's happening right now. This is completely different and, dare I say, a bit more serious. Crypto was serious. I was never really a fan of crypto. I'm a fan of blockchain, the underlying technology. I do believe blockchain, yeah,
Touche.
blockchain is very powerful. I do believe in distributed technologies and all of the things that blockchain stand for. And I do feel like there's a place in it, especially when you start to take into account AI and all of the data that is going to need to be processed, as well as quantum computing and the different chips that are rolling out. I honestly think all of these technologies work together. And that's what our future will look like. But for the whole idea that AI is a fad and it's similar to crypto. Of course, you had the crypto boys scamming, and there's some AI folks that are out there. I haven't seen a ton of scammers, but I know they're out there. I'm pretty sure I just haven't come across them yet. But don't discount this technology. Long story short, it's not something that I think is going to go away. And that is what is being echoed at Davos this year. Another huge point that I felt was really good at Davos that kind of echoes a lot of what we're even saying in this episode of the podcast is how it's going to change the workforce. I know this is huge for a lot of people because you're like, oh my God, AI might replace my job. And the verdict is, yeah, it probably will. And this is not Angela saying this. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, put out a report just this week, 4 days ago on the 14th, and it talks about how AI is going to be reshaping the nature of work and what it means to work. And so, some interesting findings in the study. And the International Monetary Fund really looks at the global economy. The IMF and the World Bank are really great resources, honestly. If you're a founder, and if you're looking to do something that's forward thinking, I remember when I was just starting Streamlytics, and Streamlytics wasn't even Streamlytics yet. I was still trying to figure out like what this idea was that I had. And so I was doing a lot of research, and I came across a study that the World Bank did as well around data, and then particularly around global population growth and how much of that is actually from Africa and the African diaspora. And so when I launched Streamlytics and we rolled out our first product, Culture, that was really the foundation and the basis of our whole business strategy. Anyway, long story short, World Bank studies, IMF studies, definitely pay attention to it. So what they were talking about at Davos, they break it down to the world economies, then advanced economies, emerging markets, and then low income countries. Their study found that almost 40% of global employment is exposed to AI. What they mean by that is that it's going to impact your jobs. And in advanced economies, 60% of jobs will be impacted by AI. And so before, a lot of people were talking about, oh, it's going to be blue collar jobs and things that are like factory workers and things that robots and robotics will take over. But no, that's not what they're talking about. They're actually talking about white collar jobs as well. And so it's definitely something to pay attention to. I am not completely concerned about it because I think the world is changing. This is just my personal viewpoint. And the world is changing to where AI is going to be taking over a lot of things, but then that means the people who used to work these kind of day-to-day jobs, every for a while so many people were focused on what's my side hustle? What do I really want to do that is fun for me that also I'm able to make money? I think that's going to become the default way of living, especially as some jobs get impacted by artificial intelligence. And so what I tell a lot of founders right now, especially in the accelerator, is it really is less about fundraising. And when you fundraise for a business, you're creating a job for yourself. That's really what you're doing. You end up on salary and all of that. You have benefits and all of that. When you're creating something that is more of, I'm not even going to say a side hustle, it's an independent business. It's an independently funded business by customer revenue or your own capital. That is completely different than fundraising. You have a real opportunity to actually just do what the hell you like and build a product that you like and work with your customers. And it's way more freeing than fundraising. And I guess fundraising to me is the equivalent of working a 9 to 5. This was awesome. I actually felt like it was going to be much longer. My goal is honestly to keep these. I'm not a fan of the hour and a half long 2 hour, 3 hour podcasts. I definitely like them, but that's not what this is. So my goal is to keep this short and digestible for you guys so you have another outlet to stay up to date on everything that's happening with AI. Hopefully, if anything super crazy pops off with AI, we're going to be doing more episodes. But right now, you can count on us having an episode once a week. It will publish on Fridays so that you guys can listen to it, doing all of the great things that we hope you're doing offline, off the internet, off of technology. But yeah, so that's it. We are going to wrap this up. I will see you guys on the interwebs. It has been awesome. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. We'll be publishing every week. Subscribe to my newsletter, AB on AI. I do publish AI news like we're talking about today, but I also do publish long form essays. They take so long to write, but I so love doing them. But they're usually about anywhere between 1,000 words. So I don't know. My 2024 predictions, that was 3,000 words. So that was a lot, but it was broken down and digestible. When I'm doing my long form essays, I try to make sure that they are rooted in data. Definitely check those out. Then it's free. And we will see you guys next week.